Welcome everyone. Leading change in organization. This is what we will be discussing in today. The agenda is very simple. We will try to dissect the different reasons for resisting changes. Would love to understand what is crisscrossing through the minds of the people involved in major changes. Understand how leadership acts on the face of change and the characteristics of the effective vision. Like to also state anything and everything with respect to the visions of the organization. At times, what happens because of the technological changes, because of the procedural changes, the vision of the organization might get changed a little bit here and there. It is not only because of the internal factor. At times, external factors play a major role. Also, why? Because the customer taste for certain products evolves over a period of time. So we need to understand what are the major changes in the organization. What is the characteristics of a learning organization? What is an organization stagnant and learning, ever changing, ever upgrading itself, ever adjusting to the climate of the environment? Understand how leaders can increase learning and innovation in organization thereby. So, organizational change, what exactly it is? It is all about the activities. Activities that are associated with planning, designing, implementing, internalizing tools, procedures, routine, processes, system that require people to run their jobs perfectly. That require people to know their responsibility individually. That require people to deliver their objectives as per their jobs assigned to them. So that is what organizational change is all about in organization. Now let us understand the types of organizational change. First, is the change in attitude. You know what happens if new technology has been brought in? People are comfortable in their own comfort zone with the old process, old technology. But the new technology means there has to be a change in attitude. That defines itself the work roles would be changing. That defines it might get better, it can get complicated, it can have a change in the reporting relationship. These are what all that brings on a technological change, procedural change. So talking about procedural changes, at times what is the strategy that we are going around it? It is always customer first, but probably the stress was on the branding. Probably the change is this time it is going from a dealer's network instead of a retailer network. We are looking at a dealer's network, positioning them as a dealer's feedback, asking the dealers to make the sales on behalf of the company. So the change process, we are going to use the Lewin's force field process of unfreezing, changing, and refreezing. Whatever the procedures were, whatever the process were, whatever the technologies were, whatever the attitude were, we are going to unfreeze them, change them to the new paradigm, and thereby refreezing them altogether. Two forces are at work: the driving force and the restraining force. The force which wants to go for the change, and the force which wants to oppose the change per se. And the eight-stage model, let us understand them individually. One is to establish a sense of urgency, because if you don't change, you might get exterminated. You might become insignificant. So please understand there has to be a sense of urgency for the change to be embraced upon. Forms powerful guiding coalition. Yes, you get exterminated or probably vanish over a period of change if you don't change yourself. So please understand that becomes a powerful guidance. Develop a compelling vision for your sustainability, for your success, for yourself and your organization being relevant to the present ever-changing scenario. You have to have those compelling vision and communicate that thing, that vision thoroughly, so that each individual comes to know why we are going for a change. Once this communication has gone through, people would automatically be empowered to understand the vision. People would automatically be interested for the requisite changes. Generate short-term wins, as in small milestone, which leads to the bigger goal, achievement of the bigger goals, and consolidated gains. Every time you change a little bit, you ensure that that becomes a habit. You ensure that that is the rule that needs to be followed and discard the old habits altogether. Eventually institutionalize the changes in the organization culture. Absolutely, yes. Herein, we have not only unfrozen, but not only changed, but also freezing the things that needs to be going around it. So let us talk about changing culture. One of the most difficult ways to change, absolutely difficult. It is one of the most required things. With every generations of people, there is a common habit, common attitude, common outlook towards life. You have to be relevant, and workers who are more than 50 years old or workers who are in the bracket of 60 years old in the vicinity would have completely different sort of attitude between them and the workers who are at early 20s or early 30s, late 20s or early 30s. So we need to understand those cultures. We need to understand the attention span. We need to understand how people react to crisis, the role modeling. We need to give emphasis of rewards. Earlier, probably the older workers would be happy with monetary rewards, but the younger worker might be looking at non-monetary rewards as a sense of motivation. Criteria for selecting and firing members, design of system and procedure, design of organizational structure, design of facilities, stories, formal statement, and so on and so forth. So, if those are changing of cultures are required, what are the resistance to the change? First is the lack of trust, belief that change is unnecessary. Why, if everything is going good, why do you want to make a change? Believe me or not, if you don't evolve yourself, if you don't evolve into a new being, you don't make yourself relevant to the eventual scenarios and the environment. So the belief has to be trusted upon and probably remove altogether. Believe that change is not feasible. Everything is changing. The mere fact that you are watching this video and learning something is a change in itself. Otherwise, you would have done it the other way around on the physical mode, right? We have the economic threats. Obviously, yes, you if you don't change, if you don't evolve, you become insignificant. Relative high cost, fear of personal failure, loss of status, loss of power, threats to values and ideals is what we are looking into it. Resentment of interferences. Now, these are the resistance to change. It is an inbuilt affair that people would love to be in their comfort zone, and in their comfort zone, they become insignificant in due courses of time. So we need to change ourselves. We need to pull our socks and come out from the comfort zone and experience the new technology, new process, new culture. I am sure there are benefits to everything, as there might be benefits to the older cultures, older views, older technology, but newer things brings makes life much more easy, much more happening, much more relevant for the organization and for you as a career. So why people resist to change? Because they are anxious. They don't want to pick up new tricks, new habits, new technology, learn new things. Learning anxiety becomes an issue. Uncertainty, eventually people are in the comfort zone. Lack of confidence that change will be successful. Probably they have been doing it for ages altogether on their scale of things. So if there is a change which has been introduced, they would always be suspicious about it. Why this change is required? So distrust of leadership. One of the major thing is the leadership, how he or she portrays the change, how he or she is being perceived by its follower. Fear of being manipulated. Absolutely, since everything is unknown, the future is completely new, people are not aware of it, they might feel that they might be taken up for a ride. So this are the reason why people resist change. Stages to changes, I have already said about it. The Lewin's force field method of unfreezing, changing, and refreezing. Now, response to repeated traumatic changes. Now, traumatic changes are absurd changes, absolute changes. Leaves people less resilient and more vulnerable. The confidence is shaken. Leaves people inoculated and better prepared to deal with changes. Or if one is always in dynamic situation where one is aware that anything and everything is temporary and probably everything is prone to a change, they are better prepared in that fashion. Stages in reactions to the change. One, denial. This isn't happening. This is the first stage. Why change in the first place? Anger. Look for someone to blame. It's not your fault. It's the other person's fault. As simple as it is. So first would be denial. Second would be anger. Third would be mourning. Why this change happened? People stop denying the change is inevitable. Acknowledge what has been lost and mourn it. Why this change is happening? What was wrong with the previous scenario? And finally, the fourth stage of adaptation, wherein you need to accept to the need of the change and go on with one's life. These are the four stages of changes altogether. How person reacts depends on how much the person has confidence after coping with change successfully or otherwise. So that confidence level is very important. How much change they have previously experienced can increase resilience, can increase stress and frustration thereby. Different types of organization. There are plentiful of organization. I would love to elaborate only few. One is an attitude centered change, wherein there is a uh, change or focus only on the attitude. Probably it becomes more into technological oriented, more into people oriented, or less into people oriented, more into process oriented. Now, this is an attitude change that needs to be catered to. Then we have the role centered change, changes in technologies, changes in competitive strategies, economic, human factor, generic program changes is what we are looking forward to it. This is the reason why everything goes for a change. So yes, different types of organizational change happens. Generic changes programs are there. System models for organizational change. Problems have multiple causes. Every problem. Actions have multiple outcome. Every probable outcomes. It might be in your direction. It might be within your purview. You need to understand. Change has a delayed effect. Probably this is one of the truest thing that can one understand. Even you might not like the change, you might not appreciate the change, but down the line it becomes a habit. Down the line you can understand the benefits of changes, and that is what needs to be done. Action that appears to offer quick relief may make things work in the long run. The best solution may offer is no immediate benefit, is something which change leaders would always be talking about it. The best solution is go for slow and steady and incremental immediate benefit. A sudden benefit, people might be questioning the older option or the newer version, as the case might be. So system model changes, you have to look at the problem, you have to look at the solution. They are multifaceted. Uh, You have to look at the change that you have been trying to deliver, which might have a delayed effect, which might have an immediate effect, but it is always preferred that you have an incremental effect over a period of time. Influencing organizational change, nature of organizational change, ways to influence culture, leadership behavior, program, system, structures, cultural forms, as the case might be. And this is what we are talking about the organizational changes thereby. Now, leadership behavior, what are they talking around it? How do the leaders influence the organizational culture? First, the leader has to exhibit the values and the vision. The leader has to be the role model and probably seek attention accordingly. Reactions to the crisis is the best display of leaders' characteristics. We have the program system, structures, and cultural forms, which is all about management system, designing the management programs, the rewards, the personal decision, the criteria thereabout, the transparency thereabout, the structures and facilities designs, symbols, rituals, ceremonies, stories, and we name it, we have it. Cultural and growth stages of organization. Founders have a strong influence in organization culture. More difficult to change culture in mature organization. In mature organization, the cultural influences the leader more than the leader influences the culture. This is what is a fact all about it. It is all about maturity, the founders, the leaders, the top management who actually would be bringing in the culture that the organization needs to espouse. So developing a vision is what we are talking about it. First, the characteristic of vision. You need to understand the elements of vision would have a mission statement, the value statement, the slogan, the strategic objective, and eventual project objective. Project objectives are small objective based on the project, which leads to the strategic objective of the very fact that the organization needs an existent, and that is what we are looking into it. So how do we develop a vision? First and foremost, involve every stakeholders in your organization, everybody, even if it is a customer, even if it is a vendors. Identify strategic objective with wide appeal so that everybody viewpoint is being inclusive. Identify relevant elements in the old ideology. Link the vision to core competencies. Evaluate the credibility and refine the vision. Continually assess and refine the vision, thereby what needs to be done. Responsibility for implementation implementing major changes, support from top management. The pace and sequency of changes, rapid versus gradual introduction of changes, change interdependence, subunits simultaneously, changes in the organizational structure to make it absolutely consistent with the strategy. Now, let me give you the guidelines for implementing changes. Create a sense of urgency about the need for change. Communicate a clear vision for the benefit to be gained. Identify people whose support is very essential. Build a broad coalition. Fill key position with competent change agents. Use task force to guide and implementation of changes. Empower competent people to help plan and implement change. Make dramatic, symbolic changes that affects the work. Prepare people for changes by explaining it in minute details. Help people deal with stress, difficulties of major changes. Provide opportunities for early success to build confidence. Monitor the progress of change, make necessary adjustment, keep people informed about the progress of change, demonstrate continued optimism and commitment to the change thereby. What are we looking into is internal creations of new knowledge, internal department, pilot testing new ideas, external acquisition of new knowledge, best practices, hiring outsiders, external consultant, and joint ventures. Now, this is all about organizational learning, where we are trying to churn out knowledge through internal department and pilot testing of your ideas altogether. External acquisition is where you bring in the consultant, the best practices, mimic the best practices of other organizations. Innovations and organization learning is knowledge diffusion and application. Information system written, well documented, special purpose conferences where everybody from the like-minded people would be brought together, and there is a proper deliberations and discussion, seminars and workshops. Learning organization is what we are looking. This is all about innovations and organization learning. Now, what are the guidelines for innovations and learning, and how do you do it? You have to first and foremost have an open culture. Encourage appreciation for flexibility and innovation. This is what open culture is all about. It encourage and facilitate learning by individual, by team. Help people improve their mental models, leverage learning from surprises and failures as the case might be. Encourage and facilitate the sharing of knowledge, ideas, set innovation goals, reward the entrepreneurial behavior, reward the person who are taking appropriate risk. At the time of risk, there might be a chances of failure, but keep that failure within your stride. Have an open culture. Believe me or not, the more you try, the better the chances of your success becomes. Guidelines to overcome the resistance, show support. Absolutely. Give commitment. If something goes wrong, do not back out. Give the appropriate commitment and support to you and encourage your employees. Communicate the need for change. Maintain ongoing communication. Empower people to avoid micromanagement. Absolutely. This makes the people very responsible. Ensure that the change efforts are adequately staffed and funded. Anticipate and prepare people accordingly. This is of prime importance. Assemble a coalition of supporters, align structure with strategy, fill key position with competent supporters, recognize the rewards contribution, use team and task force whenever possible, necessary. This is the only 5 methods of overcoming resistance. I repeat, have a dedicated team of supporters. Make your strategy and structures completely aligned. Fill key position with competent people. Reward contributors, whoever are adapting the change methods. Use team and task force wherever necessary so that it helps the whole team to understand, the whole employees to understand why the change is required and how it needs to be implemented. With this, I come to an end of this presentation. Thank you for watching this video till the very end.